Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will be exploring the most practically important topic in GIS, which is the spatial interpolation, and specifically the most powerful form, kriging. So today we will be covering the theory part, what is interpolation, why would we need it, and why kriging stands apart from the other methods. Then we'll move straight on to the hands-on of ArcGIS practical, where we'll build an actual rainfall surface step by step, starting from a CSV file and ending up with a GeoTIFF raster file. So let's get started. So let's first look at the interpolation concept. So this is not just related to GIS, it has been everywhere. Suppose I have an image and I want to zoom into this. So I have 4 pixels around this particular point that I have, and I want to zoom into this point. So I want to find out the intensity of this particular pixel as related to the pixel intensities around it. Now I know the values of A, B, C and D, and I want to estimate the value over here. So generally the basic idea is that once you have the intensities or the values that you want to find out around the particular pixel, you look at the distances around it. So whatever is closer will have more influence. So it will have more weight, and the ones which are farther off will have lesser weight. Based on this, there is a certain mathematical equation which is used to calculate the new intensity value at this point. So here you can see here I am trying to estimate the certain value at x0 point, and I am getting it as a summation of various weights with the values at these particular points, and the weights are kind of dependent on the distance. Lesser the distance, more the weight. So that's the concept, it has been used here. Now specifically looking into the spatial interpolation, there's a very simple way to think about it. You have a set of weather stations spread across the city. Each rainfall records at a specific location, but you really need a continuous rainfall map which covers the entire city. So I want values of all the points, and I have certain stations which are kind of put here, and I want to find out values at all the other points. So this is where interpolation comes into picture. It estimates the values at unsampled locations using the known values of the surrounding measured points. So where can we use it? We can use it to estimate rainfall, the temperature, the elevation of a particular place, the soil property analysis can be done. The air quality monitoring can also be done using this particular technique. So we have two broad methods here. One is the deterministic and the other is geostatistical. Deterministic methods are simpler and faster, whereas geostatistical methods like kriging are more powerful because they account for the statistical structure of your data, not just the distance. So you have two values kind of coming into picture, whereas this is just kind of based on the distance. So let's quickly walk through the main types of spatial interpolation. The deterministic models assume that the value at the unknown point is some weighted combination of the nearby known points. So IDW is basically inverse distance weighing. Closer points have more influence, which I was telling earlier. In the trend surface, you try to fit a mathematical surface, a linear or a quadratic equation across all the data points that you have. And it is good for capturing large scale trends that you have. In the geostatistical methods, you go a step further down. You don't just use the distance, they also model the statistical relationships between the data points. You have kriging here, which is the most widely used geostatistical method. It uses spatial correlation to make predictions and also quantifies the uncertainty in these predictions. Co-kriging uses a secondary variable. So it is an extension of kriging and incorporates some other variable for better prediction. Then you have something called spline methods, which create smooth surfaces that pass exactly through all the known points. So today we'll be focusing on kriging, like I said. So kriging is a geostatistical interpolation method that predicts values at unsampled locations by exploiting the spatial correlation structure of the known data points. So there are two main advantages of having kriging. It uses not just the distance but also the spatial structure of the data in question. And apart from just predicting the values, it tells us how much estimation of uncertainty is there. So it looks into the variance of the data and it gives us a probability or the estimation of uncertainty. Now moving further on, we have three kinds of kriging. The ordinary kriging, it is used when the mean of the data is unknown. That is the most commonly used form, and it's what we will use also today. Simple kriging, when the mean is known, then we do this simple kriging. Universal kriging, it is used when there's a spatial trend in the data. One key concept underlying all kriging variants is the semi-variogram. Just see this. There's a semi-variogram which is basically used to describe how the spatial similarity between the data points changes. So you're looking at the distance between the points and the semi-variance between the points. So you model this relationship using a theoretical function, the most common option being spherical, exponential, Gaussian, and we will be using a spherical model for this. So just understand, suppose I have the spatial data points over here. I have 20 locations and I have these values here. So suppose I'm looking at the elevation or maybe the population. So anything that we are monitoring. So maybe the elevation I have taken for these points. Now I have these values here. Now I'm trying to find out the elevation of all the other points which are not measured. Now let's look at the variogram here. That is the brain of kriging. This is the most important part. Kriging looks at all your data points and asks, as points get further apart, how much does the difference between them increase? So you're looking at the distance and the difference between them. So the nugget basically represents the measurement error or the micro variations. Then there's something called a sill here. The sill point is where the distance no longer affects the similarity of the data. So as I'm increasing the distance here, you can see here as I'm moving forward, there's no change in the variation, no major change in the variation. So after this, what you do is that you do a model fitting, you calculate the kriging coefficients, and the third step is basically to be able to do the prediction. To predict a value at a new spot. So suppose I have a point P here that I am trying to find out the value for the elevation. Kriging assigns weights to the nearby sample. So I have 3 points near it and the weights are assigned according to the variogram here. And then I will be getting an output here. The output is now a krigged surface map. You can have an example of soil contamination here which is shown. So by using kriging, we create a smooth heat map, a krigg map, and crucially an error map that tells us where our predictions are shaky because we lack enough data. Now let's talk about co-krigging. So this is primarily used when your sample data is very expensive probably. So suppose I want to measure the zinc contamination and measuring zinc in the lab is very expensive. And I somehow find out that zinc and pH are kind of related and pH variation is easy to monitor. So what I will do is that we can use the pH map to fill in the blanks for the zinc map. So what we do is we have a cross correlation here. We have the primary data which is my zinc, auxiliary data is the pH. I find out all these values and then I will have a cross correlation co-modeling here. So instead of using just one variogram, we use cross semi-variogram. This models the relationship between two different variables over the distance. Then you do the joint weighting here. The maths becomes more complex, but the predictions are got using the weights of original zinc samples plus weight from the nearby pH values. So then the output is a joint surface map that you get. The example is, like I said, the zinc one. So if I was just using simple krigging here, see the map was blurry because we had very few points and I was not very sure as to what I'm predicting is actually okay. If I use co-krigging with pH auxiliary data, then my predictions become more accurate. So there's no variation here. See, the more the blurring, the less confident we are about the predictions that we are making. Now moving on to the coordinates of extent. So the coordinates of extent define my spatial boundaries of a data set or the map in the coordinate system. So we can represent it with the 4 values here, x min, y min, x max, y max. My x would determine the longitude and my y would be the latitude. So suppose this point is x min, y min, this point is x max, y max, I'll be able to find out the entire extent of it. So I have the area covered by the raster or vector data set and it can be used to clip the raster. So what actually happens is that I have a bigger map and I need to clip it, like we have discussed in the previous classes also. So the extent will define the clipping area for me. Now, how do we do it programmatically? So in ArcGIS, the extent is defined by the spatial boundaries, and we can do it very easily. I will show it practically to you also. So you have basically a map with a bounding box labeled by xmin, ymin, xmax, ymax. And we can easily find out the width and the height. So if I want to calculate the width, I will have xmax minus xmin give me the width. The height will be told by the ymax minus ymin. So now my interpolation is area is completely defined, the extent is known. Then we will define all the interpolation method that we want to use. We could use IDW, Kriging, spline, whatever that we want to use. Today we will be talking about Kriging. Now the environmental setup. So obviously we need to first set up our environment. So the workspace would be the folder path where your ArcGIS will look for inputs and save outputs. I will show it to you practically also. All these things we will follow in the practical. So let's get started with the practical here. Search for ArcMap. Right click, run as administrator. So while this loads, let me first show you the script here that we'll be using. So ArcGIS loads the ArcGIS's Python toolbox. This line over here, import star, simply means that load spatial analysis tools specifically needed. So we need this for Kriging. The environmental workspace, so this is where my data is downloaded. So let me show it to you what is there in the data. So this is the workspace. So I have given the folder as the workspace. I have codes inside this and I'll show you the file also that I have. So I have this kind of a file here, the CSV file. So the CSV tells me the automatic weather station ID, the location of that automatic weather station, the mandal of that particular weather station, the latitude, longitude, and the rainfall recorded by it. So a little data is here. If you want to access this data, I will show you how to actually access it also using a Python script later. But right now we have this CSV that we have downloaded and we want to work on this for the Kriging. So back to the code. Here, by allowing this overwrite output, it just basically allows overwriting the existing files. Without this, ArcGIS would throw an error if the file already exists. The TIFF path, the path of my TIFF file, where I want to store the TIFF file which will be created. So I have again used the same folder here. If you see, this is the folder. And right now it does not have this, but this will be created once I run the script. In case I am doing it multiple times, I have to remove these existing layers. So maybe, I go through an error or maybe I have some changes. Then I want to make sure that either I change the output name or I will just make sure that all these things are removed. The layers are removed in case I have something loaded already. So this is just that. In case there's some TIFF file which is already existing, we will delete that. Even if it was existing, after the execution of these steps, it will be deleted. Now we are running the main Kriging part here. So this is the part to that CSV which I showed you. So this is the CSV file path. R, like I said always, it's the raw path name. Now this particular command here, it creates a temporary point layer called AWS underscore WGS 84. Now look at this particular spatial reference 43261. It is basically the WGS 84 coordinate system which I have discussed earlier also in the previous lectures. In case you haven't seen that, please go through that lecture to be able to understand the CRS. This line over here, it saves the temporary layer as a permanent shapefile. So this was created over here. Now this is saved as a permanent shapefile. Now, why is this necessary? Because Kriging requires a real file, not a temporary layer. Now, look at this, UTM-44. Now, we are reprojecting from the WGS 84, which is in degrees, to this particular UTM-44 zone, which is in meters. Why? Because kriging works better in meters than in degrees. This particular code that you're wondering, it is basically the EPSG code for UTM zone 44N. And this is a standard value. So you will have a reference file to be able to refer to whenever you need to. So this is done here, the reprojection. Now this basically activates the spatial analyst license. So it is like checking out a book. You borrow the license to use it. Now the model that I want to load is loaded here. So spherical is just the mathematical shape used to model how rainfall varies with the distance. It could be anything else also, but we are taking a spherical model at the moment. This actually runs the Kriging interpolation. So this is my input shapefile that I had given. This is the column from your CSV which it needs to be interpolated. The model, we've told it to be this particular model over here. And this is the cell size in meters. So if I could, I could change it. Right now it is 500 by 500 meters. I could do it 200 by 200 meters, 300 by 300 meters. But if my cell size decreases, then the number of calculations will increase because I have smaller cell sizes. So number of calculations will increase and it will take longer. That's it. Otherwise, there's no change problem. And yes, the accuracy will increase also. And then once my output has come, I will save it to the TIFF path which I had given for saving the file here. Once the file is saved, we are just trying to load it here and show it as a image here in my ArcGIS. So let's look at the script here. Let's run it. So these are the automatic weather stations that were present already. And this is what I got from the Kriging. So these were the weather stations that I had. Now, what we have done is we've tried to find out the rainfall at different places. And let's look at this. Now let's try to interpret these results here. So you can see here the values between 5.6 to 5.9 are dark green. So these are the places where you have lesser of rainfall. Then 5.9 to 6.2 is this particular area. Then the gradation is here and the heaviest rainfall is somewhere here on the edges. So right now what you are looking at is a continuous rainfall surface across the entire study area, not just the study locations that we had. So everywhere we are able to estimate the rainfall which is kind of predicted, and this is what your Kriging delivers. So this brings us to the end of this lecture. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.